Is anyone else virtually, Erica? Just Heidi? We have anyone waiting?
She's not on yet.
Oh, you did? Okay, thank you. Switch them over so they, oh, even though they show on my, isn't that strange, but they show on my screen that you got it. Yeah, please. Let's see.
Charlie Hill's not here. Huh? Charlie Hill, Judge Hill.
Might not be because of the weather, Bob.
Yeah, 4A on the thing. If he's not, maybe we could get him to come to the next one, or
Let's do that. Okay.
just a suggestion. But
All right, I was gonna take this.
yeah,
to
you know,
him since lives around
he
the block, but-
swore me in every time except
So, all right, we'll do that. We'll defer it to the.
if he's not here. Yeah.
Defer it to the next one.
She'll join in a minute,
Okay,
but she said to go ahead.
it started, okay. Okay, and no one signed up for the public hearings? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fahet.
Here.
Councilman Best.
Present.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
Thank you. All stand, please, for the invocation by Councilwoman Bravo.
Lord of wisdom, we pray that you will bless this meeting. Help us be productive with discussions that will broaden our perspective. Help us to take the various ideas presented and think of ways to flush them out. If we do disagree, help us to resolve any disputes gracefully. Be creative problem solvers to help us find principles that we can all agree on and put these into action. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Hey, good evening and welcome everyone to our city council meeting for Monday, September 26th. Nice to have everyone here, and we will start with awards and presentations. We are going to defer this presentation for Judge Hill to see if he can make it for the next one. He may not be able to get out. I know he had confirmed, but with the weather the way it is. So we'll defer that presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. And let's move to open forum, and we have one person signed up to speak, Christopher Fernandez. Come on up, please, to the podium.
Thank you for having me, council members. My name is Christopher Fernandez. I am the new resident in Miami Springs. I'm over in the Thrush Avenue with my wife. Being that I kind of wanted to bring to your attention, as we learned pretty quickly, it's the abundance of the noise that comes from that local rail station. Kind of connects off of roughly like 62nd Avenue, right? To my understanding, this from South Florida in general, all the way up to Broward. There's been a lot of work done to establish quiet zones for a lot of the trains. And for those of you who are not familiar, essentially those quiet zones require essentially take away the requirement for engineers to have to honk the horns as they're approaching the railroad crossings. For some reason, I guess it leaves it up to their discretion, but it no longer makes it required. On our first night, and just because I happen to be a numbers guy, I couldn't help but count the number of horns that went on between midnight and 6 a.m. And there was about at least 5 to 6 different horns that just went off. Can clearly hear it all the way to the master bedroom at the end of the home. Impact windows, new roof. Like I can only imagine then, for folks that haven't made, those sort of reservations, how even loud and disturbing it can be for them and disturbance to just the quality of life. So I just wanted to ask the council if has it been considered, right? Or what options have been explored for this nature and what can be done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fernandez. And after the meeting, if you like, or reach out to our city manager and he can give you the past history on that on the quiet zones. Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone virtually for?
Mayor, if I might interject, Judge Hill is in the house in chambers.
Yes, I saw him. So we will, hello, Judge. So it is our pleasure. We have a presentation or recognition, I guess, tonight for recognizing Judge Charles Hill for 18 years of service on the Historic Preservation Board. And Judge, welcome. We're so glad to see you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you for the recognition. I really appreciate it. It was really a learning experience. Learned about fine people living here and also learn about Miami Springs, and the history is very, very impressive. I encourage anyone to join the board if they can and learn and support all the preservation that we have of beautiful homes, beautiful places. So thank you so much.
And
Mayor,
and Judge Hill is like just a clear example of residents in Miami Springs that give so much. They serve on advisory boards, with a passion and continually, and they give it their all year after year after year. And you're just the dedication that you've given to Miami Springs and to the Historic Preservation Board.
Thank you
We
all so
greatly
very much.
acknowledge. And
through the chair, Mayor, if I might, you're leaving just a little bit too early because we're getting ready to form a committee here for the 100th year celebration for this the history of this.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I know, but I hope that the board going forward will remember your dedication and your time spent of 18 years on this board relative to the things that you've seen and the contributions you could make forward. I'll make it a point to advise them to do so, and I hope they're not bothering you if they do.
Oh.
But Judge Hill is, I've had the distinct honor of being sworn in by Judge Hill every time I ran except for twice. First time was by the clerk Magali Valls, and the last time, because you were unavailable to do it, City Clerk Erica Gonzalez swore me in. But Charles Hill has been the one that swore me in every time, and I really appreciate that. I'm honored. Thank you for
Judge. And
your
we have
dedication to the community.
we have certificate of appreciation for you for your years. So let's go and honor pleasure of being photographed with you. Okay, The next agenda item is the approval of council minutes for the August 29th meeting and the September 12th meeting.
Through the chair, motion to move items 6A and 6B.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. We'll move to public hearings. We have, is Heidi on now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. My apologies that
How
I'm
you doing,
not
Heidi?
in person, but I didn't want to get anyone else sick.
Okay, hope you're
Um,
better soon. Okay, so let's open the public hearing because if not, we always forget.
Yeah, right.
We get into it. So let's, I'm going to open the public hearing, even if someone's not signed up here or hasn't signed up. If they'd like to speak on any of these items, agenda items 8A, B, C, or D.
And Mayor, while you wait to
We
see
should
if there's anyone who'd like to speak on it, I'll go ahead and read the item just for the record. And
Okay.
I'll read both of them together. As a reminder, you do need to vote on the millage first. That's item 8A, and then on 8B. You can have discussion on both items, and we can take the public hearing on both items, but we do need separate votes. So item 8A is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, adopting the final millage rate for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2022, and ending September 30th, 2023, in the amount of 6.9100 mils, which is 4.14% higher than the rollback rate of 6.6352 mils, announcing the percentage increase in property taxes and providing for an effective date. That's item 8A. Item 8B is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, adopting a final budget for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2022, and ending September 30th, 2023, providing for expenditure of budgeted funds, providing for budgetary controls, providing for grants and gifts, providing for budget amendments, providing for encumbrances, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Is again, anyone want to speak a public hearing on these items? And no one's online, right, Erica?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll close the public
Mayor,
hearing for those.
Through the chair, Mayor, I have a statement to make, please, before we vote. This is addressed to the council on the second budget hearing. Today's date, September 26th of 2022. My fellow colleagues, members of the administration, and people of Miami Springs. We are met here tonight in full deliberation of our charge in the adoption of a final budget for the fiscal year commencing 1 October 2022 through 30 September 2023. Previously, on 12 September, the first reading, we faced the administration's recommended mill cap of 6.9900 from 7.2095, representing a 5.35% increase than the rollback rate. This garnered a reserve of $151,858. In continuum, we approved additional expenditures to include RCF, C-Clicks, historical, civilian groups, and legal. All good. Then we appealed for an additional portion be applied so as to offer public works and other city employees an additional 2% compensation over included COLA hike for all for the lowest paid employees. Simultaneous to this, Recreation proffered for a $30,000 upgrade to the batting cage improvements that flew. Instead of deliberating further on the merit of addressing our lowest paid civil servants, excuses were offered by some on inclusivity, sustainment, and fairness. Half of this body failed to engage in further compromise on how this might come to fruition, save the mayor. And the motion was drawn to just throw the lot at further reduced millage. This action represented the easy way out versus some agreed upon legislation which may have parlayed the issue before you. It is my thought that the valuable resource of labor was outright hung out to dry in lieu of misconstrued mathematics and upcoming elections. Okay, fine. I think I get it. Notwithstanding this questionable line of thinking, and in lieu of 2 dissenting votes versus the motion, I will this evening support this budget in favor of a unified council going forward and in support of this mayor and her policies. Remember this well. You have rewarded, or should I say alleviated, since taxes will still rise, by $1 and change those at large, while denying those who put a face on our city by far more. Finally, I would indulge the mayor to keep this matter on the front burner going forward. While I recognize that outside the budget, the charge has now become considerably more difficult to achieve, for we have missed a valuable window of opportunity to perform an act of judgment and conscience for unselfish reasons. Thank you for your attention, and may God bless you. And just to share a statement from Thomas Jefferson, which is totally applicable here. Quote, "We in America do not have a government by majority. We have a government by the majority that participate. All tyranny needs to gain foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Thomas Jefferson. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there a motion
Well,
on,
I'll make a motion to move the items, Madam.
doing one at a time, let's do 10A first.
okay, is
Motion
there
to
a
move.
motion to move item 8A?
Motion to move, Mayor.
Okay, is there a
Second.
second? All right, is there discussion?
Yes. Madam Mayor, I'm not entirely sure that this is the appropriate place to raise this, but it does have to do with the budget. And it's something that I apologize for not having brought this before, but it came up at a recent meeting, and I wanted to see if this is the appropriate moment to discuss this. As you all know,
When you said is a recent meeting or a recent council meeting?
no, in a recent meeting of the group that I'm going to refer to
Okay,
in a minute. As you know, I have for the past year or so been the president of the War Memorial Committee that has taken on the task of refurbishing the War Memorial on Curtis Parkway. And to give it, and we've seen the designs here, much needed facelift, which hasn't been done in the last 50 years. And in fact, we've had a war memorial in Miami Springs since 1945. We've been working diligent to try to raise money. We've got a heavy schedule of activities that we want to do. We're trying to raise $100,000. Some people feel that's a conservative number, but everything goes up, costs go up as we discuss, as things move along. And I just was able to convene the committee for the first time in a little bit last week, and one of the members of the committee, Councilman Richard Block from the village of Virginia Gardens, made us aware of the fact that they have apportioned $5,000 from the city towards the cost of this monument, and we have not discussed that here as well. We have been as generous as possible with a number of other projects, all of them well, and all of them that I've supported. But I would like for this body and also as a point of order, ask you if this is the appropriate moment to discuss that the city of Miami Springs apportion a contribution of $7,500 towards the cost of the refurbishment of the monument. And just so you know, we have a plan where we have a couple of approaches to a number of airline companies for some sizable grants. I will be calling in the next few days Representative Avila, now soon to be Senator Avila, who supported us last year and brought a bill forth for this money, and it died at the very end as some things happened. We think now with him being a senator, this could be a real opportunity to get some assistance from the state government. I did speak to the city manager before this meeting, and city manager offered to add a request for the war memorial for this next legislative session as well. So we raised close to $16,000. We have a campaign to sell bricks and banks to make the place even look better. It's been really attractive. It's just, moving forward to raising the funds. And that's why I'm asking for a contribution from the city council.
Yeah, through the chair, if I might,
Yes, sir.
in support of what the councilman is bringing to the table here. It perhaps the appropriateness did not raise its head until now for him to do that, relative to the fact that Virginia Gardens, in their last meeting prior to our last ability to talk about it here at the dais, he pushed a motion in front of the village council for the same thing that the councilman is referring to tonight, and successfully, unanimously, I might add, it passed the Virginia Gardens City Council. I say unanimously for $5,000 toward the project. So, to me, the fact that the monument is in Miami Springs and we do nothing, kind of makes no sense. I'll leave it there.
Okay. I think you both know, both councilmen, that we should have discussed this before. This is not, but nothing is impossible.
Right.
We're still haven't taken the vote. So obviously it should have been something that we considered during our budget workshops. It should have been in there, but nonetheless, councilman, you're asking for that we add $7,500
Yes.
to the budget. William, do you have any?
May I recommend something?
Yes, sir.
Instead of redoing all these numbers
Okay.
all over again, we can do this at any point during the fiscal year. I mean, the 7,500 is still not that, their goal is about 150,000.
No. It's 100. Actually, as the councilman mentioned, about 100. I think that we can come in even under that. I envision 75,000 pulling this thing
Well,
off.
what
initially.
I'm saying, I guess it's that 7,500 right now is not going to get you to your goal. It's probably going to be sometime later on during the year. And I would recommend that we try to, again, put in the appropriation like we did last year for 100,000. Being that Brian Avila is now Senator Avila, he'll probably be able to push that this year. And depending on that, then we can do this at any time during the year. It doesn't have to be right now.
We had hoped, and it was our hope. And again, this project has been going on for 2 years. So it was our hope originally to break ground by November 11th, which is Veterans Day. We just wrote a check today to the people that are building the bricks that all the citizens have bought to date, and the benches that are being constructed as well. The 2 for VG, and then one other by a private concern, gentleman and his wife. Actually, his wife did it for her husband, who passed away and was a veteran. She bought a bench for $2,500. So all of these monies, we wrote a check today for $2,500 toward that, and everything that we owe the brick company to date, meaning September 26th. So going forward, that's going to leave us with about shy of right around $20,000 after the VG installment. And that's where we stand right now. So we're far away from being able to break ground. We do have commitments, however, for pro bono labor and materials. Not all of it, 50% overture so far, which cuts it even more substantially, in addition to the 20,000 that we have cash ready to go, ready cash.
So with the city manager's recommendation, does that seem, you've got 20,000 working cash right now?
Well, after what we wrote today, figure 17.5, yeah.
Okay, so that should be.
We
okay
could
for
get
you.
it, we could get it started, but again, I don't want to start something and have it sit there and nothing done either.
But
you
does
know?
it seem reasonable what the city manager is
Yeah,
saying,
it-
that, down the road, we can address it again? I mean, we're talking about $7,500. I think, if it's critical, obviously, I think the intent of all of us is,
I guess,
to contribute
Mhm.
something toward that.
Mhm.
That the
if I
city would
may.
contribute toward that.
Madam Chair. Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah. that makes,
These
Yeah,
are,
we're
these
going to do
are
that anyway. I mean,
conversations,
yeah.
that we could have had months ago, and that's
Mm-hmm.
my fault as the chair of the group, that I didn't think about it to ask, that we've had conversation about asking city council of Miami Springs to contribute. because after all, the monument is in Miami Springs. And so I'm really of two minds. One, it's in Miami Springs, and two, that as we do moving forward, doing fundraising, the question will come up, or someone will ask, is the city supporting this effort, right? And so at some point, I think that we need to be able to show that the city, because Virginia Gardens is not going to support it, City of Miami Springs is supporting it. We've got some legislative projects, or we're going to have these conversations, and it's all going to be good in terms of the efforts moving forward. So yes, I mean, I think the manager has a
Okay.
good point.
And I think you have the consensus of the council that we support the project.
Yes.
We're all, is that
Are
right?
we-
Bless you.
Yes,
Do we
we're
have a
all-
consensus do we have a
So-
consensus, Mayor, that that the 7,500 seems to fly up here? I mean, is that
That
okay?
we'll discuss it at a future date, as instead of changing the budget right
Yeah,
now.
no,
that
no,
we
no.
Understand that
I
this is
agree.
something
I
that
agree.
you would have liked to have
Absolutely.
presented, and
I
we're,
agree.
we're all willing to discuss it as a future
Absolutely.
date. It's, you know,
I agree with the manager.
Thank you, Mayor.
Through the chair,
yes.
William, for that application for the 100,000, when would that happen again? When is the next earliest time that?
Well,
we
we're
apply?
probably gonna start now, November, December, because they have to have everything in by January and February for the days up there.
Okay,
So it's gonna be about the same time frame
Okay.
as.
yeah, okay,
the
perfect.
spring.
Full
Yeah.
throttle.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilman.
Mm.
It's an important project for our community. And I have a feeling that it's going to be, when it's completed, that it's going to be one of these,
Maybe a jewel.
it is, it's going to be a place marker that, you know, it'll be hard to imagine when we didn't have it there, when, you know, when it wasn't that grand, because it's going to be beautiful.
And we do, just to remind everyone, we do Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and we've done it. I've attended every year for the last 12 years, and people come from other places
All over.
and
Yeah.
former residents. So again,
I
when it's
envision it
all, when it's
being
all
as
done,
a-
it's going to be
A gathering place for the
a
county
gathering place
for those kind of
for the veteran
ceremonies.
You know,
population.
Yes.
we've had folks come up here in the well over the several meetings that we've had recently, talking about, you know, bringing airplanes and doing this and that along the common there. This is going to be the anchor once it's finished. If
And
it's
it'll
as
be
we
nice,
hope. You know.
Going hand in hand with the Centennial celebration that's coming up and everything. It's
Absolutely.
just a
Absolutely.
lot of things to look forward to that are all tied together.
And as just a point of clarification, and appreciate the city manager mentioning it, Councilwoman Bravo. You know, so it's not the first time we're going to ask, and of course, we're gonna full throttle, and we're gonna work with the senator and the new state representative for this. There are never guarantees, but we hope that you know, with a little more muscle that the senator will have, that it can make it through. So you know, if we got it all from the state, that'd be terrific, and we could complete it even sooner. But we have a contingency plan to raise the money without the state money, because the state money would take care of it. But you know, we've broken the budget up into some chunks, and Councilman Best and a resident, Ralph Crop, have been working and going to be approaching some of these airlines, particularly those that have been around here for a long time, and you know, supporting anything in Miami Springs will be a great thing for them. So
All right. Thank you, Councilman.
Keep
Okay,
you posted.
so do we have a first and a second for 8A?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
More discussion. Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
yes,
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, let's do 8B. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion to move 8B, Mayor.
A second from Councilwoman Bravo. Any discussion? I would just like to comment on what Councilman Best, his very, as always, eloquent summary of a situation. And I think we are all in agreement that, you know, we're very indebted to our employees, and the concerns about, you know, salaries and inflation and all this is something that is very real and, you know, very important to us, for these employees that provide so many services to our community, that they're happy and they're satisfied and they continue to work for us. So I think at the last meeting, what we had discussed is going forward is looking at the citywide, looking at the starting salaries that hasn't been done. My understanding, William, is in like 20 years, right? A salary
Salary
survey
Okay.
review to make sure that what we are offering in starting, particularly in starting salaries in these jobs that are under 50,000 and perhaps you could be there for a very long time and still not be at, over 50,000 or just near it, that we're going to review those and make sure that they're adequate, that they're equal with what other communities in South Florida are paying. And again, I'll state that, as much as we would like it, we probably can't be the highest paying city in South Florida, but we certainly shouldn't be in the lowest. We should be right up there. I'd say above average. And we have a lot of other benefits and we've talked about those that make it worthwhile for employees to work here. So,
Mayor, thank you for your overture. I appreciate that very much.
okay. All right. So, any other discussion on 8B? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
So motion carries.
Okay. 8C.
Motion to approve?
Okay.
Second.
Hold on. On 8C, the ordinance, we need a public hearing and we need to read the title.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I had opened them all for public hearing initially, but
We hadn't read the title. I thought you were only doing the budget ones, Mayor. Sorry.
okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead and read 8C, and then we also need a public hearing on 8D. So let's take each one in their due turn. So on 8C, this is an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, amending section 31-11, purchasing, procurement, and sale procedures of the city's code of ordinances to update the city's procurement provisions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. And I think I heard a motion in a second.
Okay.
Motion.
To
To
approve.
approve.
I'll
And-
second it.
And is there a second?
8C.
Okay, let's open it up for public hearing. For 8C, is there anyone, even if you're not signed up or anyone online, we're willing to hear? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing. And just for the sake of our residents, Tammy's gone. William, could you just explain the summary of this, what it really means, why we're updating this purchasing?
Well, basically, we're changing the dollar thresholds under which city has to go out for RFP. For example, before it used to be 25,000. Now this changes it to 100,000 before you have to issue an RFP. As we mentioned before, 25,000 nowadays, it's very easy to go over any project. And RFPs are very time consuming for staff and for legal. So that's one of the changes we're making. The other change is the current authority, my authority is 10,000. We're raising that to 20,000. Again, for the same reasons I mentioned before, because of the inflation and the value of projects nowadays. Believe it's under 5,000, there are no changes. Between 5,000 and 10,000, it's now going to be between 5,000 and 20,000. City council approval is not required, but the city manager must obtain, I still must obtain quotes, 3 quotes, even though it's within my dollar threshold. Between 20,000 and 100,000, city council approval is required, and the city manager must obtain again 3 quotes. Over 100,000, city council approval is required, and the city must competitively procure the purchase unless exempt on the code. Those are basically the only changes.
Okay. And the reason for that is, like the city manager said, to kind of streamline and be more efficient with staff time and staff preparation for these things that with inflation and everything, they just needed to be upped a little bit to make it a little more realistic, and not everything has to be waiting for a city council meeting to be approved.
Through the chair, in addition to that, it was just to bring us up to date too, because many of the cities that we saw, I would say at least 10 of them that were provided to us were
Already at
completely
that.
different scales.
Right.
So I think we were just kind of like stuck in the past.
Right.
So yeah. to
And
make
this
more
just kind of
efficient, yeah.
speeds up things instead of waiting.
Silly little.
Okay, so any more discussion on that?
Just to mention briefly that everything William had to say makes perfect salience. It just will accelerate the process And anything that is even in excess of or under the 20, I'm certain, judging on his track record, that he'll bring it back to us anyway and let us know what's happened. So I don't think I don't think we're uncovered here as far as checks and balances.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Let's call the vote.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So we go to 8D. Heidi, you want to read the resolution?
Sure. And this is a quasi judicial item. It's a variance hearing. This is a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, either approving or denying, depending on the result this evening, a variance application by Juan A. Calvo for the property located at 400 Park Street to provide a 10-foot 8-inch front yard setback where section 150-06D sub E of the code requires a minimum required front yard of not less than 30 feet or the average depth of the front yard of the lot or lots next adjacent thereto on either side, whichever is the lesser of the two, providing for conditions, providing for violations, and providing for an effective date. This is a quasi judicial hearing, so we do want to make sure that we allow, I'm sure the applicant is in chambers and staff as well to present, I'm sorry, on their staff's recommendation as well as the applicant's application. And if I can just read very briefly a quasi judicial statement into the record. So as mentioned, this is a quasi judicial item. If you would like to address this item, you can advise the clerk and you will be afforded an opportunity to speak after the applicant and staff have made their presentation on the item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request that the council ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on the item, the city's code of ordinances, and the city's comprehensive plan is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. We don't have any ex-parte communications in Miami Springs, so we don't have to provide for any disclosures. At this time, I would ask that the clerk swear in any persons who wish to testify on this item.
Anyone giving testimony this evening on the application, please stand and raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? Thank you.
And with that, Mayor, I guess Chris is available to provide a presentation. And
Heidi, we're having trouble hearing you. Can you repeat that?
Speak up.
sorry, that I think Chris is available to provide the presentation. I'm not sure if he's in chambers or remote this evening.
Yes, he is. He's coming up to the point.
Okay.
Mayor, Council, good evening.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
So this is a parcel that's literally 1 block south of us at the corner of Hibiscus and Park. There's the Women's Center and then the Women's Club, and then behind that is an apartment building. And across the street is the subject property. It's operated as a duplex. It looks like it was built as a duplex, but it will be torn down to accommodate this project, which is 6 townhouse units. And they are of equal size, 1,500 square feet each unit, 3 stories. The ground floor will have a garage or carport, really more of a carport since there isn't a garage door per se. It's sort of enclosed on 3 sides and roofed, but doesn't really have a door. So we're calling it a carport. And there will be an office or a 3rd bedroom en suite on that level. On the 2nd level, there is a living room, dining room, open kitchen, half bathroom with a washer and dryer, and a full balcony that extends the length of the apartment facing out onto Park Street. And then on the 4th floor, there are 2 more bedrooms, also ensuite, and a Juliet balcony off of the north unit facing Park Street. There'll be a little Juliet balcony there as
It's a
well.
Juliet balcony. Is that just that you stand? but you
Exactly.
can't
It's
sit?
typically French doors. They can be sliders. But that's more contemporary. It's typically sort of a little more old worldy kind of thing. French doors would open in and you stand there and there's the rail. You cannot step out onto. There's no balcony to step onto, but it's an open air. Good question.
Romeo.
Right,
The,
right.
The property, there's a lot of landscaping, so I've passed it many, many times and really never paid a lot of attention to it because the oaks are so plentiful and so large. And almost all of them will remain. What I'd like to call your attention to specifically is sheet A 1.00. And that's the site plan. And on that sheet, you are going to see. I'm not sure, there, in one version it was colored, it's a little harder to see here, but the variance, the dashed line along Glen Way, you can see that the variance is just for that small quarter triangle of the property. So it cuts through about half of the first unit, a small piece of the second unit, and not at all for the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth unit. So it really is a relatively minor variance. It may read like the entire project is setting back so close to the street, but it's really just that corner. And if you know that, then across the street, it's a very wide street, and then you've got the church and then the parking lot. So there's really, we didn't feel any impact on that. Other than that variance, this project is variance free. It meets parking, height, setbacks, lot coverage, pervious area, density, comprehensive plan category is correctly in place as multifamily. The thing that, and I'll answer any questions that you have, but it's a pretty simple, cute little project. The thing that I kept thinking about when I reviewed this, and I always ask myself this when I'm reviewing a residential property, particularly, would I want to live here? And when I look at this one, I say, yes, I like this. I want to be there. I could see myself there. And we thought it was really an elegant project. And at the conclusion of the Planning and Zoning Board, it was 4 members and the vote was 4-0. They all threw around the buzzword of elegant. And they really are. They're kind of a little different or unique. I think it's a nice product that will sort of perhaps pep up the market a little bit for other people to do these underdeveloped sites and bring them to a little better potential. So with that, we recommend favorably. We have, X conditions. 9 conditions as noted in the staff report.
Through the chair, go ahead, Councilman Vasquez.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Councilman.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize this, so because this helps a little bit, but I'm more visual in that sense. So is this the complex that's, if I'm parked behind Grace Lutheran in that parking lot? If you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, so, because I
The
come,
church parking lot.
the church parking lot, Grace
Lutheran.
Lutheran Church parking lot?
It's sort of across there.
Yeah.
Right. That's so those apartments that are right there, it seems to me, and they're gonna be taken down.
Right.
Okay. And those are currently all rentals there.
It is a rental. It's again, it's rented as a duplex.
Right. And are these gonna be rentals as well?
These will be rentals as well. They all have all their individual utilities, electric, cable, gas, cable television. All that will be provided individually to each unit and all underground, I might add. We'll always require underground utilities for all our new projects.
Sure. Thank you.
Chris, so there won't be any unsightly satellites, antennas? and
That's
those-
correct. And that's something that we ask of the property owner, and the property owner agrees to those conditions. That's really how it works. I'm not sure we could force that, but we always have. But typically it's something that we work out. Mr. Calvo, by the way, is the property owner and the architect. And I'm gonna guess the last thing he wants to see on his baby is satellite dishes. So it's normally not a big ask to not have that done.
I'd like that in writing though, because we do have one building on South Royal Poinciana that, by the middle school that is just,
Loaded.
Mayor, this is condition
them-
number 7.
it's on there.
It's one
Okay.
of the
All
nine.
right,
It's
good.
one of the 9, Chris, right?
Yeah,
Just-
7 of
I
9.
think one starts doing it and then everyone else in those units
Yep.
start doing it, which is what I think.
It really
happened at that
cheapens
one.
a property.
It does.
but
It's very,
a-
it changes no matter how architecturally nice the project is. All you
Right.
see are these antennas popping
Exactly.
out all over, the
Exactly.
satellite dishes.
For a planner, that's where my eye goes to. It's not what's good about it, but what's the problem? I go right to that. And that's when I see that, I'm like,
And this is right near our downtown. So something that's aesthetically pleasing there is nice. It,
correct. I think it's really a nice addition.
Councilman Best.
I think Councilwoman Bravo has something before
Yes,
me.
please, thank you. A couple of questions, if you guys don't mind. Okay, so I see we have 14 parking spaces because I know that this has been the hot topic. One, by the way, the townhomes are beautiful. And that area, the highest and best use, I mean, being in the real estate industry, the highest and best use for that property is something in this line. Okay, so we have 14 parking spaces. I see that we have noted the parking spaces towards, I would say, the south side. They have a depth of 16 feet. But I'm wondering if you have, like, let's say a standard minivan is 17 feet deep. Are we taking into consideration no?
No, it's a great question.
And the width as well, I wanted to know, because I see another question before you answer anything respective to parking. Behind the townhomes, parking 1 through 5, is that also parallel parking?
All the spaces are head in.
They're
You mean
I
on the
see.
swale? Are you asking on the
no,
swale?
no. Here
no.
behind the townhomes, parking's 1 through 6, sorry. They seem to be, are they parallel one or are they
No, they're head in. They're all head in spaces.
with 16 feet?
Well, yes and no.
Okay, so,
One of the little tricks that we use, our minimum depth of a parking space is 18 feet.
Mhm.
Normally how that's accomplished is 16 foot. At 16 feet, you place a wheel stop. The traditional
Yes.
wheel stops with the rebars that go in there, of course, until the concrete breaks and the rebar start puncturing tires and tripping people. So what I always do is, instead of a wheel stop at 16 feet, we replace the wheel stop with a continuous type D curb. So it's one complete loop of curbing, and the 2 feet of the parking space is pervious overhang. It'll be green area. It can't be planted because the car, of course, is going to park over it, but it's an 18-foot space comprised of 16 foot separated by the curb, and then the last 2 feet is on the other side of the curb. So we don't get involved in the wheel stops.
so should it be noted that it should be 18 feet in depth drawn in?
Yeah.
And not 16.
The 18 there as well.
Because it's going to be
We
tight.
will ask for that, because normally what we want to see is 2, 16, and then the overall 18. We'll make sure that's done. But
Okay, yeah.
That's
'cause-
definitely how this is laid out.
Okay. My other question was, there's gonna be parking in the front as well? Or this just green area, right? Okay.
No, just green. There's no parking in the front.
Okay, I didn't see in one of the conditions here. I want to make sure that we don't have any swale parking, like overnight swale parking, because we are in what they say a housing crisis. And I understand that we're putting in these townhomes to maybe potentially alleviate that, but I think it's gonna do so much more. I think it's so nice. But I do see, again, coming from the industry where we have families packing in 4 to 5 people in one townhome or an apartment. So I just want to, maybe if we can add a condition in there where there's no swale parking.
No overnight swale parking.
No overnight swale parking. You're gonna have a visitor, granted, right? But it gives
Not to stay overnight.
recourse if somebody lives next to townhome A to call and say, hey, this car has been here. And because we have that issue now in a lot of little areas. So now is the time to really set it straight, and you're doing such a beautiful development. The crowding of that area is gonna kind of like actually bring the value down. I think that's all I had for right now. It's 3 2s, 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms,
They're
Two and a half,
three.
Beth.
3
Actually, 3.5.
So
The 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor are en suite. They have their own private bathroom. The office or 3rd bedroom on the ground floor is en suite with a full bathroom. So that's 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. And then on the 2nd level with the living room, dining room,
right.
kitchen, there's a half bathroom.
So we have a total of 14 parking spaces. If we have 3 occupants that drive, that would have 18.
How were the
Cars.
parking requirements determined?
Yeah, through section 150 is our parking requirements, and the project does meet the parking. As I've said, there's no other variances involved here. I mean, to answer your question, I don't feel comfortable asking for more parking than the ordinance requires, because that's the baseline that we provide for everyone. And is it possible to have 3 workers with 3 cars? Yes, but it's also possible to have one couple with 0 cars, or a couple with 1 car, or a couple that, mostly use Uber and leave the car parked there. So it all
Yeah.
balances out when you look at
What
those
does the ordinance say right now? I mean, is the ordinance referencing to the amount of occupants inside of the building?
No, it goes by the number of bedrooms.
So I'm
And
thinking,
it's archaic, frankly. I mean, we haven't changed the numbers in 60 years. And Uber and Lyft and all these ride sharing services have come along, and we've never taken that into account. This was the old school 1960s. Everybody parks, everybody has a car. Kind of reality.
what I was thinking is, let's say, obviously I want this project to be successful and resellable. One, we're going to you're going to sell townhomes, correct?
The rentals.
You're going to rent. So, a family that wants to rent, but then parking would be an issue for them. What is the backup plan to be able to occupy those rentals? Should parking be an issue for a family that wants to rent? A family of 3 that drives? You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that
Yeah, but
you have the cash flow coming in, and a parking is not an issue for you.
not all units are going to be attractive to all buyers. You may just come in and say, we've got the wife and I have a car, the 2 kids got a car, we got 4 cars. That's probably a product that's not going to work for them there. Then they would need something larger with a large field of parking or parking garage, something like that. Sometimes you can't create a product that's going to satisfy everyone. So sometimes they would just look and walk away.
I like the project. I think it's just falling short. And maybe instead of 6 townhomes, 5 townhomes, to add in another 2 parking spaces or 3, I think would be a good scenario for
Well,
this.
again,
Because
like you
again,
said-
we're gonna end up on the spiel, and we're gonna end up.
Councilwoman,
never
I don't think we
comfortable
can,
requiring-
but
Mayor,
but
Mayor and Council, if
are-
I can interject.
pardon me, Heidi?
Mayor and Council, I'm sorry for interjecting, but I did hear some of the remarks about, which are really more site plan related. So the focus of tonight's decision is on whether or not to grant a variance on a setback. It's not
Right.
to
necessarily.
review the site plan itself. So you are focused on whether or not to simply approving that variance, which my understanding is it's a minor variance. And then the site plan is being addressed by Mr. Hyde in his administrative capacity. So to the extent that there's remarks on the number
Also,
of units or other things, we do need to just focus on the variance aspect.
And Chris, what you've brought to our attention is it has the number of parking required for this kind of project. It meets our parking
That's correct. But
requirements.
like I
If
said,
that's
I'm
something
never
that we need to
comfortable-
set, change in the city that we want to review as, our parking requirements, then that's something that we need to, have as an agenda
Right.
item.
It would be no
and
different than if
discuss.
they met their front yard setback and I asked them to push it back 10 more feet. I don't feel that's reasonable. We have a code that establishes requirements and setback requirements. I don't feel comfortable going beyond that if it meets that, because that's what's been determined to be the established requirement for all projects,
So the project has 2 spaces per unit,
2.25,
2 point,
a little more than 2.25.
Yeah.
well, and then it has 2 additional visitor spaces.
It's got
It has
14 spaces for
6 units.
For 6 units.
And if you look at the garage, I forget the dimension of the carport, but if you look at that, it's pretty wide. It didn't meet the 18 feet that would be required for 2 9-foot wide parking spaces. But the reality is it's gonna, if you look at the drawing with the vehicle in there, it could easily accommodate 2 vehicles, depending on what they are. If you have a couple of Escalades, it's not gonna work. But if you had a reasonable sedan and some other car, or even a SUV in a car, I'm pretty sure it's gonna fit 2, but we could not and did not count them.
Yes, sir.
Councilman, were you finished?
No, go ahead.
Are you done? Hmm?
See what you have to say.
Okay. First off, I'd like to, since Mr. Calvo is in chambers tonight, I'd like to compliment him on the project. I view this as a kind of a hybrid project in Miami Springs, because we don't really have one like it. So you're the first. Relative to people parking underneath and you know, getting their cars out of the weather and what have you. Good thinking. It's a beautiful project. I appreciate the variance that's being asked for. And I think that it would enhance the neighborhood. And what I was going to ask you, Chris, is do you in fact think it will enhance the neighborhood?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Just undoubtedly, yeah.
My second question becomes then, are any folks in the area affected by this that you are aware of, and for a reason or not?
Well, I mean, anytime you have basically a small duplex and you bring 6 units, you're going to bring more people onto the street.
Mhm.
But I think it's accommodated in a way that everything is tucked behind. The garbage is in a CBS enclosure that's tucked behind the building. The parking is all tucked behind the building. One certainly could have put a driveway and garage in the front, but for aesthetic reasons, chose not to do that. He really took the high road on that one.
Yeah.
He could easily have put those parking spaces in front. Nothing prohibits that. So
I think a project that is it doesn't necessarily abut Grace Lutheran, but it in between the street, Grace. Right.
there's a huge buffer, which is why we're also comfortable with
Right.
that 10-foot.
And that kind of leads me to believe that the variance makes sense. for
And
that
then
reason.
remember, it's only at that corner of the building that actually is in a variance situation. The rest of the building is not.
It's almost akin to, although in my view, better than the Kubiakov project, which is in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
which is slightly higher than Mr. Calvo's project. But there's cars parked willy-nilly all around that place. There's no real provisioning there. That wasn't thought of evidently when that project took place. I remember when we went through that here on council, when he did that, and this appears to me to be a lot cleaner. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is a nice, clean, crisp project and site plan.
I have a
Some-
question.
some-
Is the current duplex within the side setback limits, or is that one also, does that have 30 feet? Because it doesn't look like it.
I'm gonna guess that it does one, do you know? Huh?
Yeah, but we're talking about the
On
side,
part,
right? You're asking
on
for a
part.
variance on the east side.
Right.
So it does not currently. Right,
It's a variance.
okay. That, because that's relevant, right? If the current property doesn't meet the side setback, then it's not like you're encroaching on any more area with this new project.
To the chair. It's not that, he's gonna be demolishing that anyway, so it's gonna be like new slate. So
I understand, but we're being asked to make a decision on whether or not we should allow 19 point something feet of variance for a side setback on this irregular lot for a small portion of this new building. And the point I'm making is that when I drove past it, it seemed like the existing duplex already doesn't meet that. So it's not like it's not like if it was a single family home that had plenty of setback and now you're sticking something in there and it's encroaching on area and you're having to ask for a variance. The reason you're asking for a variance is because it's new construction, but the existing home already doesn't have the required setback. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yes, and it looks to me like at least a portion of the building also violates setback, probably in the neighborhood of what this is proposing or less. So
Right. So,
there is a setback issue here currently.
right.
Okay,
To the chair.
yes, sir.
Just have one more question, Chris. Is it 14 parking spaces? Did I hear that correctly? Am I?
Yes.
I'm thinking about the ADA requirement of at least one ADA disabled parking spot.
Which is my understanding when I talked with Ulysses, and we can certainly look into this, that multifamily residential buildings are not subject to
Okay,
the.
that was my
ADA.
question, was whether it was a requirement.
But we will make a note. I will double check
I
that with him
appreciate that.
and make sure that before we get towards permit.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Through the chair, yeah, I just want to make sure that they note on the permitting, the depth going in is 18, and I don't know, because, I mean, I think, Chris, you agreed with me on that, just to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. I mean, I don't know the depth of this, I'm just trying to avoid an issue, but I know Juan is a very skilled man, and I do like your project very much. Actually, when I saw how refreshing.
Yeah, we need more like it,
something
right?
there, yeah. And I think the no swale parking, because I honestly think it would harm that area. Let's say it's not somebody living there. Let's say it's somebody else, and they're parking on the swale in front of these
I
nice
think
townhomes.
the other thing, the two things with the parking, and thank you, Councilwoman Bravo, for considering the parking, which, it's on all our minds. It's been a big issue
Yes.
lately, particularly in the downtown area, the lack of parking. So that's a concern. You're providing 2 per unit. I mean, in any house, if you go to any house in Miami Springs, the driveways are made for 2 cars. Obviously, like I've said, when our 3 daughters, there was a certain age there where they were all driving and at home, we had 5 cars in front of our house, incredibly, but everyone had a car. What I did want to ask though is, and this may be something that we need to address citywide, but it's been on my mind for quite a while, on and off. For our apartment buildings and I guess condos in Miami Springs, when they're sold, but apartment buildings also, can we ask the owners who are selling to put in the contract that the units have, 1 designated parking space or 2, so that when the people sign the contract, they know this is what they have, is maybe not designated, but there's enough parking for 1 car. So because I know we have that issue with, on South Royal Poinciana, a lot of these apartment buildings, they were for a while until we prohibited and said no overnight parking. They were going across the street to park because people ran a 2-bedroom and, and they have 2 or 3 cars. So it's important, I think. I'd like to ask that in your contracts that you advise the people that are moving in, there are 2 parking spaces in this unit. So that's clear.
Mayor, I
Mayor,
think that this is Heidi. I think that these are great ideas and discussions that are more pertinent for a more legislative discussion as opposed to the quasi judicial context that we're in.
Yes, you want us to get back on track with the variance. And absolutely. And in fact, I'm going to open it up for a public hearing right now, just in case anyone, thank you, Heidi, needs to keep like scooching us back to the center. For public hearing, is there anyone present either in the chambers or online that wishes to speak on this item? No. And once, twice, 3. Okay, I'm closing the public hearing. Okay, any other discussion here? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I had a question. So the city recommended that the variance be approved?
Yes,
And then this went before the Board of Adjustment on September 6th.
Already.
that's correct. And
Did they make a recommendation?
they recommended that they recommended favorably that the council approve the project with the variance and the conditions as listed, 4-0.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, anything else? All right, does the applicant need to speak, Heidi? Why don't you just come up and say hi? Anyway, since you're a known architect here in Miami Springs, just. And I just want to say that he donated.
Well, Juan, move the microphone down so we can hear you.
Mr.
buddy.
Calvo donated his time to, I know he's done to community projects, but most recently to the Women's Club, the little library, the Women's Club. He designed a little library that is the same exact, or a replica of the Women's Club, and it's just lovely.
That's in my portfolio. The
Right.
smallest project.
And Katie Wardensky was your builder.
That's right. So, well, I'm not sure what to say. I
Just
thank
about
you.
the project is
Thank
that you,
for
you know,
hearing me and for giving me the opportunity. I think you know the project, but if you have any questions, I mean, for me, the project is, I love it because of the trees, actually. If it didn't have trees, I might not even put it up. I think, the trees, on the entire street are beautiful. It's a beautiful street and a beautiful, incredible sight. So my hope is to keep every single tree. Some of them are 60 feet wide and 50 feet high. A lot of them are actually. And it's in my hopes is that this project is going to seem as if it had been there for a long time. So that's my favorite part of the project. And then, you know, I'm trying to do a simple project. I've been waiting for years. I've owned the property for about 20 years. So finally here I am. I think I have a financial opportunity to move forward on this, and the time is right. I don't disagree with any of the conditions. I don't want satellite dishes. And I don't want cars in the front. And if there's any way that we can squeeze an additional parking in the back, I'd be more than happy to do so. The parking underneath the building is about, if not a foot, maybe a few inches short of legal, about a foot short of a legal. So I think that you could get two small cars in there, and you can certainly have a car and a golf cart, which I
great.
think is a nice thing.
Which would be appealing to some people in town. True.
Right.
all right. Thank you, Mr.
Through the chair,
Calvo.
through the chair, I have
Let's-
one
yes, sir.
question. Mike? Had you given any consideration to solar panels for this project?
No, I don't like solar panels.
Okay. Okay, you answered the question. Thank you.
Just don't like the way they look.
All right.
They're
Anything else?
rentals anyway, so
Through the chair, I
it's-
know
Yes,
it's,
sir.
it's a variance, but I'm just curious about
It's
one,
fair.
two things. One, when does, how long from, knocking down the building to turning
Oh.
keys over to
Time frame.
residents? How long is that going to take,
A year and
more or
a half.
less?
I'm assuming 1 year.
About a year?
Yes, I'm gonna
Okay.
be personally on site
Okay.
every day. So I live like very, very short distance, like 5 blocks away.
What I
And-
think is nice about the project is that it really, because of the proximity to our central business area, it does allow people,
You can walk.
to walk to
Walk from there. Yeah.
the restaurants, to the supermarket, to City Hall, to the parks, Milam. So,
And I
hopefully
think-
they'll be able to do a lot of walking and not use cars so much.
Agreed. And in regards to the car issue, it's only 6 units, and with a market the way it is, I think that I'll be able to control. I'm not gonna have to hopefully rent it to, desperately to someone that has 4 or 5 cars, it's not, I don't think it's gonna.
Well, we appreciate it.
No.
Yeah, speaking of that, I'm
Only
just,
6
I'm just curious. I know
Is
we all,
there,
we all get questions all the time, and it's on our, people looking for apartments and so forth and so on. What's going to be the range of rental? Do you know, more or less?
Market.
have to
I
tell
mean,
us.
right now I'm comparing it to the 3 bedrooms in Hialeah and anything that's in
Okay.
the neighborhood,
Fair enough.
but it's a minimum 3,000 right now.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
all right. Anything else? Any other discussion?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Call the vote, please.
You get a motion,
Motion.
you need a motion. I'll motion to move,
yes, thank you.
I'll make a motion to move the variance for the
Second.
project.
Second. Okay. And the Board of Adjustment, is that the name of it?
Mhm.
Is voted 4-0. So they're recommending to the council that we
Yeah,
approve it.
We appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right, call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calva.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Good luck with the
Chris.
Project. It's good to get to know the architects in our city that are building things. So thank you for being here also. All right, let's move to consent agenda. We have one item.
One item on the consent agenda, resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, approving the purchase of 3 vehicles
Mhm.
from DeVal Ford LLC in an amount not to exceed $172,693.57, utilizing the terms and conditions of the Florida Sheriff's Association contract number FSA 20-VEH 18.0 and FSA 20 VEL 28.0 pursuant to section 3111E5 of the city code, declaring certain vehicles as surplus property, authorizing the sale or disposition of surplus property, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. This is and the chief is here. If you have any specific questions, this is what was approved for next year's budget. But we need to get the purchase order in now so that we can have these vehicles sometime next year. They have them in stock now, right?
Excuse me, they have them in stock, plus also this current Florida Sheriff's contract expires at the end of this month. Get
Okay,
it approved now, we get it in within this contract.
wonderful.
Through the chair, move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you, chief. All right, let's move to new business. We have 3 resolutions.
Yes, this is resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, selecting Amaranth Bank NA for banking services pursuant to request for proposals number 05-21/22, approving a treasury management master agreement, providing for authorization, providing for an effective date. As you know, the city has been with Truist Bank for some years now. So we decided their contract was up last year. We stayed with them for 1 more year until we did this RFP recently. We actually had 3 banks respond to us, and Amaranth offered us the best rates possible. Truist, after they became Truist, their fees are getting very extremely high. And what they pay on excess funds is very low. It's almost negligible. So Amaranth is not only offering us higher rates, but they're also waiving the fee for a year. So we won't have any service charges for a year. So we recommend approval and changing to Amaranth Bank.
And through the chair, William, is that the one where the old SunTrust?
Where?
Is this the bank where the old SunTrust used to be?
No.
Where's it
this-
located?
This bank is on, let me see what the address is. I think they're on 25th Street.
Okay. Okay.
Northwest 25th Street.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to thank William as our finance director of, always being on top of trying to make sure that financially the city's making the best investments and gets the best rates. And so thank you for that.
Yep.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item 11B.
11B is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, selecting Downtown Towing Company, Inc. for citywide towing services pursuant to request for proposals number 01-21/22, providing for authorization, providing for an effective date. And this is something that the chief has been working with Heidi on for a while, so they can.
Basically, this is something that I brought up a long time ago, that the police department does not have, or the city does not have a towing contract. And based on my experience with Miami Police and other agencies, they all have towing contracts. Protects the city. It protects the person whose vehicle is getting towed. We haven't had any issues, but there are other organizations out there that don't do things correctly, and that could possibly put the city in a bad spot and even affect the person that is getting their vehicle towed. So that's something that I recommended a while ago, and Heidi, we worked on it for a while, so.
So this is, if someone's parked illegally in somewhere on the city and you're calling to have the car removed.
Well, if it's parked illegally on private property, that's a different
Right.
story.
But no, but
let's
on
say-
city,
Let's
like,
say we make an arrest of an individual and we have to tow their vehicle, or a
Mhm.
bad car accident, we have to tow their vehicle, where we are the ones requesting the vehicle to be towed.
Or somebody gets pulled over without a driver's license, that kind of thing. Right.
An arrest. So that's the contract that we have in place with the company. And they're the ones that do the services to tow and store it and all that sort of thing.
but we didn't have,
Or we tow a car for investigative purposes. You know, we have to fingerprint it or whatever the case may be. They're the ones that would tow.
Chief, and so we didn't have a set company before. We just
We
called.
had companies on rotation, but there was
They were-
no actual
Contract,
contract in
okay.
place.
Like a go-to
that
company.
stipulated certain things.
Okay,
For example, I remember, I don't think we even use them anymore. I forget the company, but there was a tow company out of North Miami Beach. So can you imagine a resident
Yeah.
has their car towed, and now they don't have a car. How do they get to North Miami Beach to get their car back? You know, so just things like that.
Through the chair,
yes, sir.
would that towing option be open to illegal swale parking where it says do not park overnight, or no?
Wherever we would have the authority to tow a vehicle from. Okay,
Like at
Which would
Stafford
be-
Park that we have no overnight parking. If it was there, then that's Stafford
Correct.
Park.
Whatever company gets the tow contracts, they're the ones that would be used.
But someone would have to call in, right? To make that noted, obviously.
No, this is
Or
through the
unless we
police.
spot it
Oh,
on
you
our
spot
routine
it.
patrol.
Okay.
I don't know if Heidi wants to add anything.
I
Okay,
gue- I
let me
guess,
just make it clear. This isn't for residents to call us. They can call whoever they want if they're calling a
Correct,
towing
correct.
company.
Right,
This is
right.
just the
Services
city,
for
is I just want to clarify
police.
that, right,
Right.
for city purposes.
And we
if the
get to a
car-
car accident and one of the person says, no, I have a
Right,
AAA or whatever,
right,
or my insurance company will tow it. That's fine.
right. It's not that we're, recommending this company for residents or
No,
anything.
no,
It's
no,
just
no.
what we're going to be
That's
using.
just
I just
the-
want to
the
clarify
company
that.
that
Right,
the
right.
city will
It's
be
not
doing
our-
business with.
Not our
And-
official.
Mayor, just to clarify, like this isn't expanding our ability that you're going to do the same amount of towing whenever you need it. This is just, you have a contract with one company. Like you're not going to do any more or less towing as the need arises. We will or just have a company
And I'll be
that
honest
is
with you,
the
we
one.
don't do a lot of towing,
Right.
but it's just something that I think should be in place to protect the city
Right.
and protect
Mm.
the owners of the vehicle.
So to your point, where if somebody does get their car towed, where is downtown towing's lot that they
North
would have to
Miami.
get it from?
Miami,
I think it's in Miami.
Okay.
North,
Close.
I think it's
One of
North,
the,
North
and
Miami.
Heidi, do you remember the stipulations on the? Hello?
Through
Do
the
I-
chair,
I'm sorry.
Chief.
Let Heidi answer. What, Heidi?
Do I remember what?
I
stipulation?
believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Heidi, that one of the things we requested was that they have a location within a 10-mile radius.
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay.
all
All
right.
right.
So they just have to have a location or they'll have to bring the car to within a 10-mile radius.
Or a
for
yard
someone to-
somewhere.
Right, right.
within a 10-mile
Okay.
radius.
Their address is listed as 1451 Northwest 20th Street.
Oh, okay, that's close. Yeah.
Not far.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Chief. My question is, when you were doing all this freelancing towing, from the top of your head, what was that expense to your department? Is it an expense to your department?
No.
Help me understand how this
The only
works.
expense would be if we place a hold on the vehicle for some sort of investigative purposes and they charge us for storing the vehicle.
So right now, towing the vehicle in the
Doesn't
method that
cost
you're
us
doing
anything.
doesn't cost us anything, but this would cost us something to have somebody in place? No?
No, doesn't
No.
cost us anything.
No. Oh,
So aside from,
Unless we hold the vehicle for a certain period
Right.
of time for investigative purposes.
Which
Okay.
you do either way, depending on whether we have a contract with the company or,
Correct.
right?
yeah,
Okay.
Correct.
so aside
whichever
from,
company, no contract or no contract, they would still charge us for storing.
so aside from demurrage charges, there's no additional charge to the city.
Matter of fact, there's an administrative charge that actually helps the city out. I forget what the amount is.
Oh, you
It's
get it.
something that
You get a break
Heidi
on
and
it.
I were talking about, or emailing about earlier today.
Okay, any other discussion? Call the vote, please.
I need a motion, Mayor.
You have a motion now, ma'am.
Second.
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, let's go to item 11C, the Centennial Committee.
11C is a resolution of Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, establishing the Centennial Committee, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date. This is something we discussed at the last meeting, and Heidi said she was preparing this resolution for you, so he's here if you have any specific questions.
Let
on
me,
the-
I'll go through the resolution. It's pretty similar to what you may
Heidi, can you
recall.
speak a little louder? It's
Can't
getting
hear
hard to hear
Sorry,
you.
it's me not feeling well and my throat hurting. Okay, so this resolution is very similar to the resolution that we used to establish the Business and Economic Development Task Force, which I know is next on the agenda. So the resolution you have before you establishes the Centennial Committee. It provides that they will, as you discussed at the last meeting, assist you in the planning of the historic occasion. And they will help develop a vision for the Centennial, including potential activities, events, decorations, promotions, themes, and other preparations. So we've listed their duties in section 3 of the resolution. Section 4 provides, and we did this based on what the discussion was at the last council meeting. The committee will be composed of 5 voting members and 1 city council liaison who shall be a non-voting member. We also went ahead and put in that the mayor and each council member would appoint 1 person to the committee. I'm sorry, I think I may be looking at an old version of this. Give me one moment. I'm sorry, yes. So you'll each get to appoint 1 person, and then together you'll designate the city council liaison. We also provided that you can appoint, the council as a whole can appoint either by a motion or resolution at some future point in time, non-voting at-large members to the committee, with the idea being, we did recall that at the last meeting, you mentioned that you might want individuals with specific expertise who might be able to assist, who may not necessarily be residents of the city, to be part of the committee. So this allows you to, as time goes on, to appoint those members, but that would be done by the council as a whole, as opposed to each of you individually. We also, just consistent with how our rules are in Miami Springs, the committee members will be residents, but we have provided an opportunity for non-residents and business owners or business operators within the city to be appointed as non-voting members. The rest of the terms are pretty straightforward and consistent with what you've seen in the past. We've gone ahead and put that the committee will meet as needed, but not less than quarterly. I know that this is a committee that might go on, considering it's a few years away, the actual Centennial. So we wanted to leave that sort of open. We did address the quorum issue. I know that there's a concern about how many people need to be a quorum. So we have allowed that, of course, to be a majority of the committee to constitute a quorum. And that's a majority of the voting members, of course. Now, you do have something in your code that requires that all matters requiring a vote are deemed passed only after receiving the affirmative vote of a majority of all the members. That's typical. But matters receiving an affirmative vote of the members present, as distinguished from a majority vote of the entire membership, are supposed to be continued until the next meeting, at which time the matter shall be again considered. This is a provision unique to your code. Not all codes read this way. But we did go ahead and leave that in there for clarification purposes, because I know that this is sometimes comes up. Everything else, the committee members will, as with most of our committees, they will serve in an advisory capacity. The sunshine law will apply to them. There will be some reporting that they'll have to work with the clerk's office on. And then we have provided in section 7 of the resolution that the committee should deliver its initial written report to you on or before the first regular meeting of the city council in March of 2023. And that it could be amended subsequent to March of 2023. The reason we selected this date is because of the April election, and because each council member appoints, the term of each committee member is tied to the term of the appointing council member. We wanted to make sure that this council's appointees are able to provide their report prior to the election. And then should you desire for this committee to continue serving, then those committee members could be reappointed in the future after the April election. If there's changes in the committee, whatever the new council's desire is with respect to that, at least you would have a report from the committee that's established right now by March of 23, and then separate from the appointment issue, it'll give the city an opportunity and the council an opportunity to evaluate what the committee has recommended and start making some plans based on that. We also included that the committee would exist until December 31st of 2026, just to complete the Centennial year. But you can certainly, by motion or resolution, dissolve or extend the term of the committee as you see fit. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Through the chair,
Yes, sir.
motion to approve resolution 11C.
Okay. Is there a second?
You do? Second, Mayor?
Discussion.
This, I guess, we mentioned in the last meeting about venturing into, together with obviously the committee in place for an event professional to come in and collaborate.
Well,
with-
I think that's the committee will decide,
Right.
we'll work for that because we're
They'll do that.
appointing. So whoever
Okay.
you're appointing to the committee, that would be something that you discuss with
Discuss
your
with them.
appointment of, things that you're interested in. And what we're going to do is let the committee, we each appoint a member. Now, I think what's really important here is to keep in mind that we have the at-large. So even though we're just appointing someone, if we want to appoint a historian, a city, a county historian, or somebody else who, is a good fit for this, we can still do that, and they would be at-large members. But we each have, and then the committee will meet and start looking at these issues, things that we're bringing to their attention. I think that's one of the things we'll mention when they start, is that we've discussed that possibility
Okay.
of perhaps counseling out. But I think that's something definitely that the committee needs to decide and work on. Is this, everyone is happy with this? And the reason for, by at least March, that depending on, we never know after an election, but at least whoever we've appointed now has the opportunity to present their findings as a committee before March, before, the council has a different makeup.
Through the chair, and
Yes, sir.
I appreciate putting in there December 31st, 2026 as an end date, because it gives the committee a little bit of time at the end to, prepare a report and things of that nature. Because I see the next point on our agenda has to do with the economic development group and an extension there as well.
Yes, yes,
So
yes. And again, and it
that
might,
gives it like 3 months.
well, and it depends on, again, these are things that with the committee, whoever you appoint, discuss kind of your view on, because I know me personally, I would like it to be a year-long celebration, not a weekend like River Cities, it
Sure,
should be a
sure.
whole year. In my opinion, that, that allows us to draw attention to the city, to the businesses, to celebrate, have reasons for, the city to be showcased. So, okay, if there's no more discussion.
I had a
Yes,
question.
sir.
So had we asked William, you said that you knew somebody in Coral Gables and you were going to try to find out what company they used for the event planning for their Centennial.
No, I believe that was brought up by,
I was gonna be reaching out, but I don't know if maybe.
But that would
was
be
ahead of
something that
you.
you give to the committee. That's the
Right.
committee would look at that company and, hear their ideas and then they present to us, they work. The whole purpose of
I-
creating the committee is that,
Yeah.
we're designating people to work together on this purpose, not just quickly us trying to decide things. This is something that takes a great deal of thought.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about this.
I think if I can just refresh the recollection on what we discussed last time. The idea with looking at the companies that have done centennial celebrations or similar celebrations for other cities is that the committee that you're establishing this evening is going to provide their vision, the city's vision for what they would like to see. And then we would provide that vision if it's the will of the council and the recommendation of the committee. We would provide that vision we would include it, in a solicitation to select a company that can actually execute that vision during the Centennial. And of course, that solicitation would be issued, as all of our solicitations are on Demand Star, but we would of course make sure to include it and send it to companies that have already done this in other cities. But I'm certain that we can, I know the manager has a great managers group. There's a countywide managers group that we can probably get this type of information from, and just to have the names of those companies. But I think my understanding of what the goal of this committee is to provide the vision, and then we can share that with one of those companies.
Yeah, and Mayor, that was my recollection, was that that the committee would be kind of the body that would kind of give guidance to any company if we were to. I mean, obviously, we're not asking the committee members to roll up their sleeves and like be the ones that are like making decorations, right? I mean, obviously that would be absurd, but I think that if staff, I was under the impression that, and maybe you had said you knew, I was under the impression that we were going to get an idea of what companies have done it, and since I believe Coral Gables had just, I think that was discussed, had just had a Centennial celebration,
They're going to have.
They're
one
planning.
or they're going to, but they're in the middle of planning it. Maybe somebody could present to the committee. I mean, I'm all for the committee, but I feel like the city has a responsibility to kind of get the ball rolling in terms of providing them with information, because I think
Through the chair.
the
Well, I would-
committee would be going through.
Well, I would
ahead.
like to suggest, Councilman, that is the kind of stuff that we need to provide to the committee when you appoint someone, and that I would like to recommend that the council, if you're interested in, this, that you go to the meetings, or at least the first few, and give, welcome them, but also give them your vision of where you'd like the committee to go, or your ideas and what you hope. So to give them that direction, and that's once the committee meets.
Yeah,
I think it's important, if you are there at the meeting, if you have information that you want to present to to share with the committee members, so they have an idea of, of what the council would like to see, any of us that have those recommendations.
Through the
through
chair.
the chair.
Really quick, Walter is correct. I've had so many things going on, but Erica did send me the clerk information to the respective cities that I wanted to look into, which was, I believe, was Coral Gables and Doral. I don't know if there was another one. She sent me the information. I just have not been able to follow up, but I will do that just so I can be ready for the committee.
Yes, and present it back
Okay.
to the committee.
And through the
Councilman,
chair, I appreciate the councilwoman's question, and I think that Heidi clarified, and just to add to it, I think we agreed, among all the other things about setting up the committee and everything, that we would want to consult with an event planner, and with no specifics. I think we mentioned Coral Gables and others as possibilities, but the idea that the committee, right, would consult on behalf of the city and then report to
Mhm.
us once there's a vision right? Because that's what you need to have before you go to consultants, is to say, here's what we'd like to do. An RFP, right? Or, to different entities. But yes, the bottom line is, Councilwoman Bravo, that we agreed that we were going to absolutely consider bringing in consultants as part of the process.
Yes, sir.
Through the chair, as I mentioned at the last meeting when this first arose, we have somebody in-house already that may forelay any thought of going outside. And she's a very professional person. She already works for the city. And that's Juliana Arias at the Curtis Mansion. She has worked much of her life in event planning. And if it's something for us as a body to consider in utilizing her expertise in that area and forego this looking around for anybody. And by the way, to go after something like Doral, when was Doral established? Like 68 or
20
something?
years ago.
Right?
They're celebrating their 20 years.
I mean, but my point is that we have somebody in-house already. And if we don't want to utilize her, it's going to be my appointment on the committee. So I'll leave it to you.
I have spoken to her and she is my appointment for the
Oh,
committee.
already?
Yes, so I was going to say she's going
Mayor?
to be on the committee.
Mayor, you scooped me.
I see your appointment.
Because we've
I
been
see your
working on
appointment and I
the-
raise you
on
too.
the,
I'll raise you too, yeah.
No, on the Rebecca Sosa,
She does not
event.
work for the city.
Oh, she does not. She's an employee. She
But she's a resident.
is a rep.
No, because if you look at your resolution, one of the requirements is that they can't be a city.
Can't be a
Right.
city employee. That's
No.
right. She does, but she doesn't though. She fits that qualification. So
Yes,
that's right.
but Councilman, if you would like to appoint her.
No,
I
you
can
already
find someone
did, or
else.
you
Well, I've
intend.
already spoken to her.
Well, then
about it.
you,
She's already
no, I'll find
Right.
someone, I'll find someone. I don't know if I can match that, but
She would like to be on the committee. and
I bet
think
you
she
would.
could,
I
and
think she's
is a
an excellent
resident, so-
choice for that.
but they're probably, all of us, give it some thought and then the committee
Yeah,
will
for
take
sure.
the lead for us. But again, I want us, if we have an advisory board and they're not hearing from you, if you have ideas of where you'd like the committee to go, be sure to go to the meetings and give them some,
Exactly.
information, listen and also, provide your input so they have direction. Okay, so any more discussion?
No.
All right, let's call the vote. Vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda item.
This is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, extending the term of the Business and Economic Development Task Force from September 30th, 2022 through, I believe the new date is November 30th, 2022. Providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Yes, and I just want to say on here, we have October, the end of October, but I've spoken with Mark Trowbridge, who is a resident of Miami Springs and the chair of the Business and Economic Development Task Force. And we agreed that it should be November. They couldn't meet early September was the week of Labor Day or right after Labor Day, so they didn't have a quorum. They extended the meeting in September to October 22nd. They didn't have a quorum again, so they weren't able to meet all of September. So they're going to be meeting early October. So this will allow them through October to complete the report and then submit it in November.
Through the chair,
Yes, sir.
motion to approve resolution 11D.
Is there a second?
You have one.
And that's as amended through November.
Through November, yes, please, as amended.
As amended, yes.
Okay, call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet.
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, and I want to thank the members of the Task Force of Business and Economic Development Task Force, Chair Trowbridge and Vice Chair Maria Carrillo, and all of the members. Some of them are new members, but that have been working very hard, and they've got excellent ideas, and we're looking forward to their report. So,
Mayor, whatever happened with, I believe it's, weren't your appointments to that committee? Your appointments were Jean-Marc
no,
initially, right? Wasn't it?
no,
And
I had,
Max Milam.
Mike Finney.
Michael Finney, God bless him.
For the president of the Beacon Council,
that's
who,
right.
God bless him, passed away
Yeah,
in the middle of the.
Whatever happened to
Yes.
that guy Jean-Marc? He had some interesting thoughts, the meetings I went to.
I-
Jean-Marc?
Don't know who's
Oh,
appointed.
Dropped out
that
of sight.
But-
Jean-Marc, no, he got a different job.
Oh,
So he's
Okay.
out of the country.
oh, well, that
Oh.
answers that.
more
Okay,
than He was
okay,
when I appointed him.
gotcha.
All right, before we get I think that was the last agenda item, right? Before we start on the reports, I just wanted to mention we had some very sad news while we were here at the meeting. Tammy Romero, our assistant city manager, her father passed away tonight while we were here at the meeting. So our deepest condolences.
Could we call for a moment of silence for that, please?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. Our condolences and our prayers, thoughts are with her and her family.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do the reports of city attorney.
Mayor and council, I know Mayor Mitchell, William and I were on a call last week with the county regarding some matters regarding the annexation. We should be receiving some documentation from the county this week to review. And as soon as we have that, we'll be getting to work on hopefully getting it across the finish line. I know it's 20 years in the making, but we're like at the goal. We are almost there. So hopefully we'll have a more definitive report at the next meeting, but that's where we're at right now.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, and our city manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council. It looks like we're going to be off the hook on this storm that's coming, this
Hopefully, right?
hurricane.
Yeah.
But we're still going to be getting some rain and some flooding. They're anticipating anywhere from 4 to 10 inches between now and Thursday morning. So in preparation for that, I know Public Works has been cleaning out all the storm drains in the city, specifically on the east side of town. We've been in contact with South Florida Water Management. They have been lowering the canal since Friday. So hopefully as these bans come through, as long as we get a little respite in between one and the other, will rain and then it'll stop for a while before the next rain comes. We'll give the storm drains a chance to get rid of some of the water, but we're as prepared as we can be. We just hope for the best at this point. Also wanted to mention that Wednesday we will have the event for Commissioner Sosa at the Curtis Mansion.
Keeping fingers crossed.
We have quite a list of dignitaries that are going to be attending. I mean,
Sure.
the last time last week,
Levels,
I
yeah.
got to get a new head count, but last
Yeah.
week we were at about 180
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it's going to be big.
So
190 now.
Get there.
190.
Get there early. if you
Today,
want-
190.
Get there early if you want to park.
Well, they'll be parking along the swale too on the police will help with
Yeah.
parking.
How about
along
the parking?
overnight
They'll
parking.
be-
I know, so
Trust me, people will find a place to park. Don't worry about it. They'll find a place.
I also wanted to remind everyone this Saturday, October 1st, the free breast cancer screening and Zumba classes at the community center. And beginning October 17th through November 14th, we will have here in City Hall a collection of Thanksgiving foods. This will help the women and children of the Lotus House Women's Shelter. And there's a list of canned foods and things that can be donated. And you can find all of this information on our city website and all our social media pages, as well as current information on the storm and stay connected during the storm, the emergency alert system. We have this online so that people can get hooked up for that. And right now, we're still doing the PCR and the vaccination. The Florida Health Department has a shortage of flu vaccines right now, so there are no flu vaccines since last week. They're hoping to get some more in, so we'll let people know as soon as they're back. So right now, there are no flu vaccines available. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, William. Councilman Best.
Yes, thank the manager for mentioning the event for Rebecca Sosa. City Clerk, Madam Clerk, I don't know that I had called and said that I would be in attendance. I got to think from the historical preservation Maria Petrolanda, which I told her my wife and I will be there, but just so that was I on there anyway? Or some part of the 191 or whatever? Okay. That should be some event, believe me. So that's good. Nice to see Judge Hill tonight. That was really nice of him to show up and gosh, I mean, all the years that he spent doing that, and that's the only board he's ever served on, you know, and he was doing it in conjunction with his judgeship as well for many years. He retired a few years back. I think 3 or 4 years ago, he retired finally, but it was wonderful to see him tonight. And I appreciate Mayor, the proclamation to him from us. It was very nice of you. I appreciated the discussion tonight on the War Memorial. It's too bad, and I hope council understands the reason that we hadn't brought it to the attention during the budget, because we were kind of reluctant to know where the fall in was with VG and some of these other municipalities and the private sector that we're still in the process of approaching. And so shame on us for that, but appreciate Councilman Vasquez bringing that up tonight. And it's something to look forward to in the future for sure. It's going to be it's going to be an anchor on that common on Curtis Parkway. I thank everybody's indulgence on the budget. I think we finally got a budget that we can live with, and I think most of the citizens in this town will be very pleased with what we've done up here. So thanks for all your hard work, all of you, on that. The mayor already covered the loss of Tammy's dad. I know when that happened to me, and tonight it dawned on me. I saw that there was something going on, and I said, "This is not good." And to lose your father right in the middle of a city council meeting, I mean, it happened to me just finishing when my father passed. It happened. Mark Johnston and I were doing a game on Prince Field, the district championship game, actually. And right after the game, my wife, who never comes to a ball game, showed up. And she had white pants on and a white shirt. And she never comes to, I said, this is like, she never wears white. And I said, something's weird when I saw her standing there, and she told me. So that's an awful feeling when that happens. I'm sure some of us have been there. And those of you who haven't, it's not a pretty feeling. God bless his soul. The 100-year presentation or celebration going forward, I appreciate our attention to that. And again, our appointments, I think all of us need to be cognizant of thinking of who we're going to appoint on this and get this committee off the ground pretty quick. So at least it's in place, for going forward. I had asked the chief earlier for the time for that mass for all the police officers in Miami-Dade County that's offered on Thursday out on 25th in the Turnpike, that church out there, way out. It's Mass of St. Michael the Archangel, the feast day of, who's the patron saint of the police. There's usually about 200 to 300 cops at this. I've been to 3 of them, and it's quite the event. And but he never told me what time it was. I think it's at 10, but I said 10, and he made a call, and then I'll call him tomorrow. That's okay. Safety for the Hurricane Ian. Good looking out, William. And again, just to remind citizens that the website is just chock to block full of information on emergency numbers and everything. I've looked at it myself over the last couple of days when we got wind of this thing going forward. That's not a pun either, but just hopefully everybody's safe and that we don't get much of a rage from it. And finally, happy Rosh Hashanah, which happens to be tonight at sunset, which is the Jewish New Year for all the Jewish community. And with that, great meeting, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman?
I just want to send my prayers out to the West Coast to make sure that they're bracing for impact and expecting the worst and hope for the best. I went through Andrew, so here in Miami Springs, so I could just imagine what they're going through right now. I have nothing else to report, but I do have somebody in mind to appoint for the committee. Mr. Gavila, if you'd be honored to serve on the Centennial Committee, is that what we're calling it? Centennial Committee for Miami Springs, because you are Mr. Miami Springs.
It's like a
Hello?
marriage proposal.
All right. Thank you for accepting. I have nothing else to say. Good meeting, and see you guys in 2 weeks.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, again, my condolences to Tammy. I know that that she was distraught by that, and our thoughts and prayers go out to her. Where I'm proud that we did a good job on the budget, and I'm glad that we were able to allocate funds to continue to provide services to the community. And I think that we provide great services, and I'm also happy that we were able to ease a little bit of the tax burden for the residents by lowering the millage rate, because that's always a good thing. And the fact that we didn't have a line of people complaining means that we did a good job. So I'm happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Vasquez?
Yes, I got a couple of quick items. So, and my condolences to Tammy as well. I've lost my dad and my mom, and well, let's just leave it at that. God bless that family, and I ask God to provide for them during this difficult time. Some of you have asked me, and about Puerto Rico relief because of the devastation left by Hurricane Fiona. And first of all, our families are fine. Most of our families in the northern part of the island. The hurricane went through the southern part of the island, but it was a big, wide hurricane moving at 8 miles an hour. So it left a lot of water, in some places up to almost 30 inches of water. But there are some groups here who have been working on this and did an effective job after Maria. Part of the problem after Hurricane Maria was not just getting the aid to Puerto Rico, but getting it to the people that needed it because of all the difficulties there. And so they've already got groups on the ground there, and the groups are asking for specific things. In some places, it's money, right? Money to buy some things. In others, it's some food items and water and so forth. But they've got people on the ground to do that. So, delivery, in other words, assuring the donors that everything is getting to where it has to go. The infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure on the island is old. And also not only that, but for a long, long time was really not maintained effectively. And one of the things I discovered during the post-Maria debacle was that the island they have 6 major electrical producing plants. 4 of them are on the southern part of the island, 2 of them on the northern part of the island. Now, 2/3 of the people in Puerto Rico live on the north.
Right.
And so the electrical production has to come from the south
Through the mountain.
over this massive mountains, which you can run a line from the Cordillera through the Dominican Republic, through Cuba's Sierra Maestra. If you took the water out, it's the same mountains. And to see those lines go over there, and when there's a hurricane, it just rips everything out. And in some places, I was telling William, in order to get the things in there, they got to go by helicopter. They have to put those poles in by helicopter. So the company that's running things now, I don't want to say one way or the other, it's just been very slow. And so anything that impacts them, like a hurricane, takes a long time. There's still about 1 million people without electricity out of 3 million people on the island. So if anyone's interested, let me know. I'll give you some information about groups that are doing really good work and have experience doing it and getting the aid directly to the folks that need it the most. The southwestern part of the island was the one most affected, where actually not only flooding, but housing was destroyed and things of that nature. And there was 2 quick things I wanted to mention. We're in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. It was funny. I was in an event about a week ago, and over at FIU, and Mayor Levine Cabo was there, and it was to a Hispanic group. So she says, "Does anyone know why we celebrate Hispanic Heritage, between September and October?" And I hesitated for a minute, then I raised my hand because no one else did. I said, because that's when most of the independence of those countries took place. Right. And this was generated, I believe it was under President Reagan, it was generated. But, those who are Hispanic, first of all, understand how complex that title is. We say Hispanics. I mean, not all Cubans are the same. the Cubans from the East and the Cubans from the West, consider themselves different. Same thing in Puerto Rico, same thing in Mexico, which is a huge country, and, and Argentina. So so to take everyone and put them all together, I mean, I'm glad they do it. I'm glad we celebrate and recognize the contribution of Hispanic, as Councilman Best so eloquently put it earlier about the contribution of Hispanics throughout the military and so forth. But it's really complex when you talk about it. And lastly, I'll say something on the political end. Who's watching a couple of pundits or political experts discussing the midterm elections and the Hispanic vote. And so there were a couple of Republicans, a couple of Democrats, and then the one non-sort of party person. They were going back and forth, and they were saying that in essence, their polling of Hispanic voters, the results are that, and it wasn't just one poll, that neither party, Republicans or Democrat, was doing an effective job at reaching this vast, complex voting block. They keep talking about this large voting block, but it's so complex that it requires a lot of nuances in terms of educating. And every day we got more and more new people. As wonderful as it is to celebrate the complexity, when you're trying to mobilize that vote, as someone said the other day, where these large blocks of voters have not gotten a knock on the door, maybe a phone message, and that's key in mobilizing people. As you all know, it's knocking on people's doors. It's an important thing. So anyway, happy Heritage Month for what's left. We still got a couple of weeks left.
Well, I think, and just to mention on you, I think a prime example of how just because you're Hispanic doesn't mean we all think alike, just like anything else, is, look on here, the majority, excuse me, Councilman Best, but I don't think you're Hispanic, but I think the rest of us are.
No, last time I checked, Norwegian, English.
Certainly don't vote as a voting block or anything. It's ludicrous. I mean, this whole idea of, reaching out for a vote just because of one thing that some people might have in common is pretty funny. But I guess people love to talk about it. Councilman, Vice Mayor Behet. Your turn.
I already spoke.
You already spoke. I'm sorry. Okay. You did. Thank you. Okay. So I just wanted to mention a few things. One is for the appointments for the Centennial Committee. Go ahead and reach out to Erica and let her know who your appointment is. And I guess Heidi, we didn't put the council liaison. Should we do that now as a consensus, or do we need to reach out to Erica and give the name? I mean, I think we discussed in the last one that it would be Councilman Vasquez if he.
Yeah, I know I've had my chance on this. I was advised by legal not to mention something tonight, and for that reason, I would respectfully request that we parlay this to the next meeting.
Parlay the council liaison.
The appointment.
The appointment,
Okay.
yes, I think.
But the appointment for our individual appointments to the Centennial, please don't wait for the next council meeting. Go ahead and let Erica know by phone who it is so that they can reach out to the city clerk and reach out to them and, and start communicating with them and setting up a meeting. Just wanted to mention, the free breast cancer announced that's going to be this weekend to thank Senator-elect Brian Avila for setting that up. This is at least the second time, maybe the third time that he's coordinated that in our community. As we all know, there are a lot of women, and again, this isn't open just for residents. We do these things. Our little tiny community does so much for everyone, all of South Florida, and it's open to anyone in South Florida that wants to come. There are a lot of women that, don't have the health care or, are afraid of the possible extra cost and stuff, and they can come by on Saturday and get a free screening along with several other things that are going on that weekend. And the Rebecca Sosa ceremony on Wednesday night, we're really looking forward to it. It's a great opportunity for us to thank Commissioner Sosa for all of her decades. And I guess Councilman Best is the one that the time that you've been on the council, She's been,
Oh,
or on
it's-
county
it's-
commission, right?
it's-
She's done
it's-
so much for our community of,
Mayor, it's countless.
yes,
It's
countless. So
countless.
it's a great opportunity, but also to showcase Curtis Mansion of how beautiful it'll be in the evening, and for our residents who, have the Curtis Mansion right here in our community, and very often, just don't get a chance to experience a lovely evening there for the reception. So really looking forward to that. And then in closing, again, to mention our thoughts and prayers with Tammy and her family, and our deepest condolences. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, he goes a lot to stuff. Yeah, he's always.